Okay, this is a video on the last page of our study guide. Now, if you'll notice on number 17, we have the center at -9 and 3 and a point on the circle -11 and 2. So if we look at a drawing of that circle, we've got the center at -9 and -3, and then we have a point. So what that's telling us is we have a radius value. So in order for us to find the length of the radius, we have got to use the distance formula. So the distance formula is equal to the square root of. Now, look at your two x values. We have -9 and -11. So take those two x values and subtract them. -9 minus -11, and don't forget to square it. Then you're going to do the same thing with your y values. You've got -3 and 2. So that'll be -3 minus 2. And again, square it. Don't forget, the whole purpose of squaring it is to get rid of any negatives that you're going to get, because you can't have a negative under a radical. So as you work these out, you've got minus a negative, which is a plus. So that's going to give you -9 plus 11, which is 2. Over here, you've got -3 minus 2, which is -5. So now we're going to square these, and we'll have 2 squared is 4. -5 squared is 25, and that's going to leave us with the square root of 29. Okay, and that's going to be the length of our radius. Now, how did we find it? We found it by using the distance formula. So now that we have the length of the radius, we're going to use the center to put it into our circle equation. So we'll have x minus h, which is -9, plus y minus k, which is -3. And that is going to equal our radius, which is the square root of 29 squared. Now, as I look at this equation, I see there's a little work I need to do to it. Minus a -9 is the same thing as x plus 9. Minus a -3 is the same thing as plus 3. And the square root of 29 times the square root of 29 is 29. And this will be our final equation. X plus 9 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 29. Looking at the next one, number 19, we have a very similar situation. We've got the center at 8 and 2, and we have a point on the circle at 14 and -1. So once again, those two values give us a radius. We need to find the length of the radius by using the distance formula. So let's start with our x's. We have 8 and 14, so that'll be 8 minus 14 squared plus, now let's look at those y values. We have 2 and -1. So 2 minus -1 squared. Let's work these out. 8 minus 14 is -6. 2 minus a -1 is 2 plus 1, or 3. So as we work this out, -6 squared is 36. 3 squared is 9. 36 plus 9 is going to give us the square root of 45 as our radius. Now that we know the radius is the square root of 45, we'll use the center and we'll write our equation. So x minus h, which is 8, squared, plus y minus k, which is 2, squared, equals the square root of 45, our radius, squared. Now, x minus 8 and y minus 2, both of those are in good shape. But when you square the radical 45, it becomes 45. And that's your equation. Now, as you look at number 21, it says the endpoints of a diameter. Remember, a diameter goes through the center of a circle, and it touches both sides. So if we have the endpoints of our diameter, we do not have a center this time, so we've got to find the center using the midpoint formula. So midpoint is equal to, now what we're going to do is take these x values, 6 and 10, and add those together, and then divide by 2. Then take your y values, -2 and -10, and divide by 2. So let's work this out. We have 6 plus 10, which is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. -2 and -10 is -12. -12 divided by 2 is -6. So my midpoint is 8 and -6. This is the center of my circle. Now that I have the center, I need to go ahead and find the length of the radius, because once I know the length of the radius, I can write my entire equation. All right, so let's go ahead and do the distance formula. The square root of, now that I have my center, let's pick one of these other points up here. It doesn't matter which one, but we need the center and another point so we can find the length of the radius. So let's do our x's. That'll give us 8 minus 6 squared plus, now our y's, negative 6 minus a negative 2 squared. 8 minus 6 is 2, and negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. So let's square both of these now. 2 squared is 4, and negative 4 squared is 16, giving us a radius length of the square root of 20. Now let's put this into our equation. We're going to have x minus h, our center is 8, plus y minus k is equal to our radius, which we just found, the square root of 20 squared. So as we write that out, we'll have x minus 8 squared plus, minus a negative 6 is a plus, and when we square radical 20, we get 20. And that, teeny tiny as it is, there you can see it a little bit better, is our equation. X minus 8 squared plus y plus 6 squared equals 20. Now number 23, once again, we have the endpoints of the diameter. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the midpoint formula. So my x's are 8 and negative 2. So we're going to add those together. 8 plus negative 2 divided by 2. Now do the same thing with your y's. Negative 1 plus 3 divided by 2. 8 plus negative 2 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my midpoint is at 3 and 1. That's the center of my circle. Now we're going to use the distance formula to find the length of the radius. So I have the center at 3 and 1. I need to take one of these other 2 points on the circle to go with the center to find the distance. And again, it doesn't matter which one you pick, just pick one to use with the center. So the square root of x, which is 3, minus x, which is negative 2, plus y, which is 1, minus y, which is 3. 3 minus negative 2 is 3 plus 2 or 5, and 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So as I put this under the radical, 5 squared is 25, and negative 2 squared is 4, giving me the square root of 29 as my radius. Okay, so now that I have my center at 3 and 1 and my radius at the square root of 29, I'm going to do x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to the square root of 29 squared. So my x minus 3 and my y minus 1, both of those look really good. But the square root of 29 squared, that's going to become 29. And that's my final equation.